The Eagles finally trading Carson Wentz. He is headed to the Indianapolis Colts, as confirmed by our Jason La Canfora. In return, Philadelphia getting a third-round pick in this year's draft and a conditional second-round pick in next year's draft, 2022. That second-round pick could become a first-round pick if Carson Wentz plays around 75% of the snaps for the Indianapolis Colts. This is the draft order for this year, and the Philadelphia Eagles, thanks to that laying down of sorts in the final game, got to move from 9th to 6th in the draft order. But they have Jalen Hurts. What are they going to do with that 6th overall pick? Will they take a chance on perhaps a quarterback up there like a Mac Jones, for instance? Let's get our draft insider in here. Ryan Wilson has been doing mock drafts for the last, 6 or 7 months. And it's all coming to a head now where I believe 10 weeks from today is the first day of the NFL draft. So let's start from the Philadelphia angle because they have that high pick, because they have a question mark at quarterback now. Does this change how you would go about doing your mock?
No, Chris, not really, because it seemed like once Doug Peterson was fired, it felt like Carson Wentz had won that power struggle. Nick Sirianni was hired, and then we heard the reports about the possible trade, and the trade finally happened today. But then you hear reports that Nick Sirianni is going to roll with Jalen Hurts. So if that's their plan, and Jalen Hurts perhaps did enough to prove that he could earn this starting job, at least initially, then what do? Well, you want to surround him with playmakers. In this latest mock draft, having taken Jamar Chase out of LSU, he solved a ton of problems. They certainly need help at wide receiver. He would pair with Jalen Reagor, last year's first-round pick, who had an up-and-down rookie season for a number of reasons. And you look at Pete Prisco's first mock draft, which came out this week, he had them taking an offensive tackle, which also makes some sense because Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts both were running for their lives last season. You need to upgrade the offensive line. We heard JJ talk about Jason Peters hitting free agency. He's a little long in the tooth to play offensive line. So I think there are plenty of directions you can go on both sides of the ball. But if you're trying to make Jalen Hurts more effective as soon as possible, a player like Jamar Chase, the wide receiver at LSU, makes a lot of sense there.
Okay, from an Indianapolis angle, of course, they don't have a very high pick. It's number 21 overall, but you already had them in your latest mock, fixing the Anthony Costanzo situation, leaving a big gap there to fill with Costanzo retiring, and you had them taking an offensive tackle there at number 21. I'm guessing that would not change because the fact that you got to protect Carson Wentz too.
That's right. You don't want to take Carson Wentz from a situation where he was taking tons of hits and bring him into a situation where he's now going to take a ton of hits. So, right, Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State was penciled in there, and perhaps there's another offensive lineman they'd like that fall, someone like Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech, who's a left tackle. Tevin Jenkins is a right tackle, at least in college, and those are needs there as well. They also have needs at cornerback. Xavier Rhodes' one-year deal is up. Wide receiver is going to be a situation. We heard Jamie talk about that because of T.Y. Hilton and Zach Pascal are both free agents as we sit here. So there are a lot of directions you can go, but I think job number one, now that you have the QB situation sorted out, you find an offensive lineman, number one, to replace Anthony Costanzo, and number two, to keep the quarterback, Carson Wentz, upright. It's also interesting to note, Chris, that last year in the 4th round, the Colts took Jacob Eason, the quarterback out of Washington, who many thought, myself included, would be a day 2 pick. He's still learning on the job. He spent a year behind Phillip Rivers last season, obviously. So I want to see what happens if there's a quarterback competition, a legit one, in August, how Eason fares out and how we see Carson Wentz, who has faltered when pressured by other quarterbacks on the roster, how he sorts those things out as well.
Okay, that's Ryan Wilson, our draft analyst, joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. He's so good, he basically saw this coming. He's not going to change anything in his latest mock draft, which you can find on CBSSports.com. You can also hear him on the Pick Six podcast, and I kind of feel bad for the guys, because they just dropped an episode this morning on top needs for the Eagles. And I'm guessing in some of that podcast, they probably mentioned, they haven't traded Carson Wentz yet. Well, boys, get ready to do it all over again. Emergency podcast, I'm sure, is coming your way on the Pick Six pod from the Pick Six guys.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.